It's not that old, right? So
36.
Yeah, it's fine.
Well, I mean, I can tell you that like the MacBook Air we bought for my wife, that's clearly under like 4 gigs. It's like the thing is like constantly swapping. It's like so slow. Like my wife keeps like tons of tabs opening.
I can't.
So that thing, like that's I don't know why Apple came up with this idea of being able to sell something for 4 gigs.
My wife is not very technical, so I'm very lucky that the things that she does, it's not labor intensive at all. I think I got her 8, and it's just fine. It's the 2016 too. It just does it.
Should have done the 8.
Also, there's no possibility to upgrade, right?
No.
All right, so we are supposed to be starting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right, well, welcome to the working group. We're going to hold off for a little second, though. We are awaiting slides from our main presenter. I'm hoping he will arrive, or maybe he'll present. Is he here? I need to look. Participants, Sergio, call on Sergio. There he is. Can you come off mute, Sergio, and let us know if you sent slides to us via email or uploaded via the data tracker, or if you're just going to share your screen and upload them later. There. All right. One second. All right. Cool. There we go.
Hi, hello.
Hey. All right. Cool. So, did you send it?
Yeah. There was some new things in the in the Metecho UI, and I didn't know where to start the camera. I have not prepared any slides for today, as I was expecting the people that were presenting the issue to or having some feedback to the web presentation to prepare it so they can explain it here. But I mean, we can go through the issues that has been brought up in the mailing list and in the GitHub in the GitHub repository, because I think that this is the only thing that we have for today. Both checking what is the status of the WIP draft. But I think that it is only an status update and check and run through the issues that have been presented by the people on GitHub, and maybe ask them to show the concerns online so we can discuss about them.
Absolutely. All right, cool. Let me get through the initial setup here, and then I got the GitHub repo up, and we can share that and just walk through that. All right?
Yep.
All right. You want to do the intro?
Hello. Welcome to Wish at IETF 2021. I'm Niels Omeyer, one of the chairs. Sean, other co-chair here. This is the note well. Hopefully by Tuesday you should all have seen it. Please disclose your IPR. I think there's more. We do have anti-harassment guidelines, so if you feel anyone is not behaving appropriately, please reach out. Oh yeah, if you're like in the room, please scan the QR code. So we have the proper head count here, and use the mobile tool to raise your hand so that we know who you are when you're walking up to the microphone. Remote participants, the usual stuff. All right. I guess did you put anything in for WIP? Or?
No, I mean, WIP's in the queue, right? So it's in the RC editor's queue, so it's waiting to be published. I guess Niels found a boo-boo that we're going to fix during Auth 48, which is like a reference, so it's not a really big deal. I don't think it's anything that's going to be need to cycle back, but he did submit a PR, so when we get some other review somewhere along the way, we'll just merge it in. It's a reference to the wrong The name of the RC is right, but the number is wrong. So we'll fix it. And then basically the show today is WEP. It's the only other draft we have, and we're trying to figure out how to close out the issues so that we can get done. We're pretty close because there's not a whole lot, but at least a couple of them have generated a significant amount of discussion. So, all right, I'll stop doing this and I'll see if I can share my screen. I want to accept that. Pick a window. About that. Nope, not now. I'll just allow it. I'll fix it. Stop sharing and get into that little thing. Where did it go? Which one is this? That should allow me to share it. Share screen. Accept. Do this. This one. Allow. All right, cool. All right, so let me get into the. You want to start with the pull request? Or you want to start with the issues?
The pull request is just editorial from Niels, so I think it's. Oh well, no. No, this is part of the issues. Yeah, I mean the PRs from Niels I have merged them already, so probably this is. We can go through the issues first because this PR is for one of the issues.
Okay, tell me which one you want to start with.
Probably, I think that probably we can start with the revisit sender side sent offer. That probably is the one that maybe is the more challenging one. The 12.
12. Yep. Okay. There we go. People read that? Yeah, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. So probably as both Mike and Lorenzo are in the room, maybe they can. I'm not sure if they are willing to go on mic, so we can they can express their concern then, and we can discuss from there.
All right. There we go. Okay. Don't be bashful.
No, as an individual contributor, I think I'm agreeing with some of what the folks have said. I think we should support offers from both sides, which I know it's like going to be more work. But I think I've heard basically use cases for both sides. They both make sense, and I think if we limit it to one or the other, then we're just going to limit basically the field in which this can be used, and like half of the participants are going to be unhappy no matter which direction we go. Timothy?
Yeah, hi, Tim Panton. So I've got a mild, I don't really feel that the two-directional, that the server sent offers, it feels very unrestful. Like basically you send a kind of empty post, you get back a response, which is actually the real thing. And then you do another post, which is what changes the state. It feels like ugly. Doesn't feel at all restful. I don't know if there's a better way to do that, but it doesn't feel a natural REST API.
I also have the same feeling as Tim. I mean, I think that the implementation wise it is less restful. I mean, it is not about so this is one thing, and the other thing is that I am worried that we start having like two sets of implementation. One supporting server send offers, another one supporting clients sent offers, and they would not be able to interoperate between each other. So you said that there has been some use cases that has been proposed about the server sent offers, but I'm not sure if a part of some general feeling that it could be helpful in some cases. I'm not sure if there is any strong use case that cannot be done with with client side client side offers in the scope of web. I mean, probably there are some other things that could be done when trying to integrate with RTSP or some other things, but I'm not sure exactly what are those use cases that requires server send offers and are not cannot be done with client send offers.
So I guess what I'm struggling with here is like, so how do we break this if there's kind of like on both sides, it's kind of a mild interest in doing one or the other? Like, we want to flip a coin, call it a day? Like, is that, if we're at that level, can we do that? Is that possible? Or do we leave it as is until text shows up? You know, what do we think is the best way forward? Sorry, Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan, I was just looking at the GitHub issue. It looks like the strongest proponent of server-side offers is Dan Jenkins, so I don't think he's here right now. So that might be hard to make a decision.
I think that the most the main use case for the server side offer is to be able to do web and web interoperation. So meaning that you just can do a post request to the web server and then get the offer that you can pass to the web server, and then you can have a web server, a web client talking to a web client, or vice versa, or web server talking to a web server. But I felt first, I think that it is not in the scope of the web and web specification how to do interoperation between web and web. And also, I think that a part of being a cool hack, I don't think that it is ready for production, because you will, once you run this initial session establishment, you don't have any information at all about the media session. You don't know if the ICE has been set up, if the DTLS has been able to be set up, if there is any kind of media interruption. So I don't feel that this could ever get into anything that it is production ready. So I don't think that adding the complexity and the interoperability issues that may come about having a fragmental space of some web clients implemented server-side offer and others not implementing them, for something that it is first not in the scope of the working group about how to do the integration between web and web services, and second, that it is something that it is not even providing a good solutions, because again, it is a blind, it is a fire and forget. You don't have any control of what's going after this is done. You cannot monitor if it is if even the session is established. So it's something that will never go into anything that it is production ready.
Julius?
Yes, hello. It's just a clarifying question. Are we speaking about supporting both, or are we speaking about replacing server sent, client sent with server sent, and giving up on client sent offers?
To be honest, I don't know. My understanding on reading on the mailing list was that there are people who feel like it should be a server sent offer. Therefore, I concluded that we should do both, but that's only to basically make both parties happy, not that that's the best technical result, basically, right? But it seems like
Okay.
either side seems to be hard to convince to give up on their idea.
Okay, so if I can express an opinion on a subject I know very little about, I'd be very strongly opposed to having both in the protocol. That will run in all sorts of trouble.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if we're switching the side of the offer, I can see some arguments. So perhaps I'm wrong here, but in particular, if you're doing client-side offers, it is my understanding that you need to know the simulcast envelope beforehand. Is that correct? Perhaps some WebRTC person can correct me.
Not really, because on the simulcast will be terminated by the server, and at least in all the views and media servers that I am aware of, you will not receive all the simulcast layer, but you will only receive one of them, and the media server will choose which one to forward based on whatever heuristic.
Sure, but you still need to put all of the simulcast layers in the offer, don't you? Perhaps I'm
Not-
wrong.
Not really. I mean, because the server will hide it and will project only one of the simulcast layers to the web client. So I don't think that there will be, or I don't think that if it is
Okay,
not
if you're not worried by
yeah.
that, I'm
Yeah.
fine with that answer. We don't need to get into the details. Thank you.
Curious to say it differently, like none of the browsers can receive multiple simulcast streams.
Yeah.
You could build another client basically, which is able to receive multiple simulcast streams, but I don't think that's an option here on the table. At least I haven't seen.
Okay, perhaps I'm in the minority, but I don't think that whip and web are interesting for the browser case, because in the browser you can just have your own signaling protocol. Having a standardized protocol is to make it possible to have hardware or to have native clients. Okay, the browser case is not something that I find very exciting, but perhaps I'm in the minority.
Yeah, but even if you, for example, have a TV, you will not be receiving all the simulcast layer on the TV. You will just be receiving one.
Sure.
So I mean, the web server will only need to, for example, if you are using S264, it will just need to signal S264 and then choose one of the simulcast layer based on bandwidth estimation, or just because on screen size or whatever, and only forward one of them. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
sending simulcast is probably when you are doing server-to-server intercommunication, so you are doing cascading or whatever, that you want to send all the layers, but for being consuming by an end client, you will be likely only sending one of the layers and hiding the fact that it is being simulcast from the client itself.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Maybe I don't know. We haven't seen any concrete proposal from the folks who are in favor of doing the server-side offer, right? So maybe the middle way here is basically to say, like, give the fans of that like at least some time to come up with an actual PR of like how to do it, and then we need to take it to the mailing list to find a solution, or I don't know.
I personally think that's the way forward, right? At the end of the day, if you want to switch it, what's the PR look like? So maybe in the PR we just put, because we don't exactly know what exactly is we don't know exactly what's going to change, right? So
yeah, my understanding is that one of the problems, I guess, is with like the people are saying server-side offer, but like there's no concrete proposal how to do it exactly, right? Like others were saying before, like does that require like 2 post requests, or I think in the chat I saw like, can you do like a get request and then post your answer or whatever, right? Like there's probably like lots of different ways of doing this, but it's pretty muddy right now how. So yeah, that's why I think like if at all, like okay, the people who are in favor of server side should at least come up with APR how they want to do it.
So what I'm suggesting putting in the issue is before taking the discussion any farther, the chairs would like to see a concrete proposal submitted as a PR. because at some point, no submission, we move on. I think that's how we have to do it. I don't want to put a deadline in here because it's probably not required, but at some point we'll put a timer on it. Just checking the queue. Nobody new showed up. All right, I'm going to put that in there. We'll go to the next issue. Which one do you think we should do next, Sergio?
I think that probably the one from Julius. Not sure if it has been sent to the issue tracker or it was only discussed in the mailing list.
I'm not showing you my email, so that's going to be.
Yeah.
Let me.
Which one are you thinking? Yeah. Sergio, can you provide more details? Which ones? Which issue you are thinking?
The one about the having a multiplexed event protocol to bundle different.
The whole question whether the server event should be in there or whether that should be done by a separate protocol.
Mhm.
Yep. No, 19. There is no number. I think like number 19 is actually a proposal. I think for putting that whole event stream onto the data channel instead. So it's not like where like I think Julius is taking it one level higher of saying like, well, maybe Julius can speak for himself.
So currently the event stream is triggered by the web session. And what I would like to see would be the opposite, which would be that the event stream is started first, and there is an event that starts the web session. So instead of having a layering in which the event stream is part of the web session, having the web session be part of the event stream. Okay, so that changes the initial handshake quite dramatically because you start the event stream and that is what causes you to open a web session. And that gives rise to a lot of possibilities. So to come back, for example, to the simulcast envelope, the initial event that triggers opening of the web stream can communicate to the client the simulcast envelope that the server wants the client to offer. Okay, and at a further date, it would make it possible to have a single event stream for multiple web channels. Now, if I understand Sergio well, there is one very strong argument. He's saying that's a complete redesign, and given the lack of, that's a, fairly substantial redesign, and he would like to get things to happen before he retires, which is a quite comprehensible argument. So I've been thinking about how we can minimize this proposal, and there are two questions I'd like to ask. I haven't found them in the draft. So one is the point is, are unknown JSON fields allowed in the data field of events? And are unknown fields allowed in the events themselves? I didn't see any place that says that the client must silently ignore unknown fields. So have I missed something?
No, but not. I think that could be.
So the intent is that they are silently ignored, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that means that if we wish to extend the protocol at a later date, that's not a problem, and all that remains is the initial handshake. Do we start with web or do we start with the events? Mm-hmm. And that I feel is quite difficult to reconcile. We need to do one or the other.
Again, I'm not opposed to have this kind of like a global message bus or whatever we want to call it, to be able to expand to different sessions. But I don't think that we need to choose one versus the other. I think that there is a strong use case for having the events for a single web session, for example, for the event counts, for the SKT payload, or for the other one that we have added. I think that there is a strong use case, but I don't think that this precludes to have a different protocol, even if it reuses the same event even messages that offers a different kind of use case for events that spawn multiple streams. So what I'm saying is that for implementing what you want, when we have the use case or the proposal, we will not need to. I don't think that they are exclusive.
I'm not sure I agree. I'm afraid that if you do one, that if you try to do both, you'll have interoperability issues. I don't think that both can coexist peacefully. But, well, that's a matter of opinion.
All right, Jonathan?
Yeah, maybe this is kind of throwing a bomb, but it occurs to me that if you do have the events channel before the WEP, that solves the how do you send the server offer problem. Just send it in the event channel and respond in the event channel, and don't use REST at all.
No, but that's not REST at all. I mean, I like the idea, but it's not very RESTful.
All right, Timothy? Tim, sorry.
Yeah, I think I have the feeling that maybe we're looking at two quite distinct use cases. Like Julia said something about not seeing the web browser as a useful endpoint for web. And I don't agree. I think it's the primary endpoint for web. Now, it may not literally be a browser, but I think 99% of the cases is going to be an embedded web view. It's quite unusual that people are going to write a full WebRTC client just to view a sports event or something like that. I don't see that. For WIP, absolutely. It's all about native, and the web is a minor add-on. But I think for web, the majority of the use cases are going to be web browser, and that means that it's going to be very rare that you want to aggregate a bunch of different connections over a single channel, I think. But maybe Julius has a use case in mind that I haven't got my head around. But so coming back to the point, I don't, for myself, yet see a use case for an overarching event stream that covers more than one essentially peer connection.
Maybe probably speaking more as an individual, would it make sense to try to get web defined without this and defer this to an extension spec? Maybe that's like too big of a bomb again, like similar to Jonathan's proposal. I'm mostly bringing that up because there's like more. I mean, we have two more open issues around this whole event stream, right? One being like, oh, let's do it on data channel rather than like HTTP and so on. So it's like seems like there's like quite a bit of uncertainty around this part of the spec, basically, which could take us like quite some more time to finish it. So that's why the idea of like, can we defer it? Curious.
Yeah, this I also concerned about this. I mean, because many of the concern is not about what's in the spec, but it is probably about something that we could add a part of the spec or extensions. For example, I think that the best example if the events via data channel, because I think that it is a good idea, but I am worried about first delaying the publishing a draft for 2 more years, because I mean, to be honest, I am the only one working on the draft, and I have spent a lot of cycles already, and I would like to have a working draft, an RFC draft published, and the people that wants to get more things in to step in and get extension draft to be able to publish them independently and have more people working on the spec. And so that's I would like to if possible, I think that it would be helpful to differentiate the issues that would like to have some things added to the spec. For example, even if it is the server send offer, if they want to propose something, both client-side offers and server-side offer, or if we want to this aggregated protocol for events or even the data channel things to be something that it is independent of the main web draft, so we can publish the web draft, convert it to an RFC, and the people that are interested in having this thing to be able to work on the independent draft and push this work forward.
So I would like to, so what I would really like, I'm going to get in deep trouble with Sergio here. I would like to see the document published as standard track without section 4.9 and 4.9 removed into a draft that's experimental. That's what I would really like to see.
Can you remind us what 4.9 is?
4.9 is the extension mechanism, server sent events, and simulcast negotiation.
Thank you.
And I would like this part to go into an experimental document.
But I mean, I don't mind putting it in a different draft. But again, I don't think that we have experimental RFCs in, and so I'm not sure exactly how editorially it will work, because what I will do is just put it in a draft and push it to an RFC. So at the end, it will be almost the same, but instead of having to work on one RFC, we will have two.
I think the advantage from that would be that we can get web out of the door sooner, and it's not no longer bound by this particular topic. And if that draft should then kind of like, I don't know, never finish, then less harm done, basically.
Okay, I mean, if it allows us to get web RFC published, I mean, I don't mind to split the event part of web to a different draft.
So Francesca Palombini asks AD. So I would have to reread that section, but I'm not sure that experimental is the right way forward. So I will post a link about what experimental means, but it means denotes a specification that is part of some research or development effort. Such a specification is published for the general information of the Internet technical community and as an archival record of the work, etc., etc. So I am not sure that fits, and we can always try, but it might get pushed back from the AESG when it gets to that point, or even IETF last call. So you might get this document out of the door, but then you need to have a plan for that one. So yeah.
So I guess I'll play devil's advocate here. Like, I think if we were to put this document forward with no mechanism to allow protocol extensions, we're in a bad space. So I don't know that the whole thing can go away, right? So I think if we can figure out how to pull out the extensions that are in there and just have a generic extension mechanism, maybe that works. And then you can have experimental extensions. Does that make more sense? All right. So I think we're gonna. We probably should submit an issue to do that. Is there anybody that like violently objects to that proposal? Because I think at the end of the day, then if people are going to come up with extensions, then somebody's got to write them. And Sergio, if you don't want to write them, then you don't write them, and somebody else has to come up and put the energy and get it done.
But I mean, what I mean is that if we split the draft into in something that it is very similar to WIP, when we define the extension mechanism, but we don't define any extensions, then I will propose to have the draft with the events extension to be a normal RFC, because I don't think that it is experimental. I mean, I don't if I mean I could even do it in a I mean, as the spec does not require the extensions to be even in IETF. I could do in any other forum, but I would prefer to do it here. So I don't think that we need to put I mean, if we split the document in two, I don't think that we need to put the experimental in the RFC, because I mean, our extensions are by default optional, and anyone that want to implement it can implement it or not. I mean.
Tim?
Yes, so I have a side proposal, which is I think it's worth discussing my issue and potentially a couple of others, and then circling back to this, because actually one of the things I'm going to talk about may actually kind of unblock some of these problems. So I mean, I don't feel like we've resolved this yet, but I think it's possible that discussing my issue might clarify it.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
So yeah, the idea with the data channel thing is basically that if you look at a network diagram of how you get an event from the media server through, you know, you'll have a web server and a web application firewall and a load balancer and some NAT, and then out over the internet and then out to the user device. So there's a bunch of stuff that like that HTTP transaction has to go through. And that's fine for the REST transactions because that's kind of quite, they're quite short. So you're not holding that state open for a long time. Whereas with server-sent events, you're trying to hold open for the entire duration of the media session, like an hour or two, this whole set of state throughout all of those boxes in order to send these events, which, like, if you have to, then fine. But we've got a perfectly good channel that already set up between the media server and the device, which is, you know, it's a peer connection. And what I'm suggesting is that we should add the ability to send the server-side events, server-sent events over a data channel instead or as well as over the rest. So if you're, I have actually done some slides, but I also did a PR. And so the idea is that we don't actually have to change very much to do this, I think, because the API for receiving on a data channel is very similar to the receiving an event. I mean, that's deliberate. That's a kind of typical W3C API shape. So the client side changes are minimal. You've already got the security envelope, so there aren't any security issues. The trick then is how do we do it without like having to change the draft very much? And the answer for me, and I think this is where it like loops back to what we were talking about before, is if we just relax the requirements on the initial offer. At the moment, the initial offer and the answer can't contain an M equals application line. And my proposal is that if we stick with server client sent offers, then the client can, if it thinks it's interested in getting server sent events over the data channel, it creates an M line in the offer. And if the server's prepared to support that kind of concept, it puts an M line in the answer. And then what happens is that when the client wants to get some server sent events, it opens a data channel, and this is the only real interesting trick in it. It opens a data channel where the label matches the link that was in the header that we were already going to use as a designator for the events channel, and we just reuse that and use it as a label on the data channel. That way the server knows what it is that we're asking about, and from then on the server can send exactly the same events over the data channel instead of over an HTTP path. And that's the kind of that's my goal. That's what I'd really like to do. But I also have a minimal ask, which is if we wanted to make this like an extension, then what we could do is just change the current spec so that it doesn't do a 400 if you put an M line in the offer. At the moment, as far as I read it, if you send an offer in with an M equals application line in it, then you'll get a 400 back, which means that we're not future compatible with adding this later. Because if you have a new client talking to an old server, it'll send a M equals application and the server will send it 400 back. What I would rather do is that it then is that we change the spec now so that it replies with without that M line in it, and then the client knows that that's not a possibility for the moment, and then the future ones will reply with an application M line. I kind of bit rushed through that, but hopefully that makes some sort of sense. Sergio, does it make any sense?
Yeah, multiple comments about this one. First, I think that having data channels for event is a good idea. I mean, I don't implement it in my media server mainly because I don't support data channels, but I think that it is for the people that support data channels. I think that its architecturally is better than sender-side events. So, but I don't still support it in my media server. So that's first. The first thing. The second thing is that I think that in the current PR we have. I don't think that we have still right the way to negotiate the events and how to start to tell the web resources about which events do we want to receive in the data channels and how to multiplex the events through the data channels. But again, it is something that it is sortable. It will just require more work, and this is probably why I wanted to propose it as an extension. I agree completely that we should just add that if the client-side offer contains a data channel M line, it has to be. It could be accepted by the media server that it is not an immediate 400. So that I think that it is good to have this future-proof solution. And if we are splitting the main web RFC and the event extension RFC, we may have time to include the data channels in the event extension. So we can have more time to work on it, or even decide later that we want to have two extensions, one for sender-side offers and another for data channels. But maybe if we split the RFC already for having the events in a different RFC, we will not be in such a hurry, or we will not be blocked to release the web specification until this gets sorted out.
So I just want to also explain why I think this could potentially unblock that discussion, which is that one of the things you could consider doing, and I hadn't thought about it when I wrote the PR, so it's kind of very much off the cuff and I haven't thought it through, but one of the things you could do is just send an application M line. And then all of the stuff that Julius was talking about, and potentially the server-sent events, could happen over a data channel, and you could also potentially send your server-sent offer over a data channel. So you've got the connection established, and then you can do what you like over that path. Now, I'm not sure I like that. I think it needs a lot of thinking about. But if we just do the accept the M application isn't an error, then we leave open all of that scope for future extensions without breaking things. And I think maybe we need to explain why it's not an error, like indicate that it's for future expansion or something. But beyond that, I mean, I'm quite happy to withdraw the detail of this PR and just cut it down to the M application thing, and then say we'll do everything else as an extension, provided it's doable.
Yeah, I will try to, or I think that moving forward, I mean, having the online support or the data channel support in the web specifically, I think is a good idea. Moving or trying to have the data channels for support for events, either in the event extension or in a different data channel event extension, is also a good idea. I would not try to open the door for this and establish the data channels first and then doing a protocol on top, because at the end is what someone said before, then why not doing WebSocket instead? So it's like we are using opening a data channel and then
But I think
tunneling a different protocol is something different. So I think that is that.
I think what I maybe trying to rephrase what Tim said. I think if we basically go now for doing the whole like data channel thing, and say like in the spec client side offer is the way to go, then we would still leave the door open for a later RFC, for example, to say like as an extension to this, just open your connection by doing only M application, and then send some special events so that the server can send the offer if people really need this, basically.
Yeah,
did I get that right, Tim? I mean, I understand, Sergio, that you are opposed to that.
Yeah, I would like to close that door
So
and say
Well, what I'm saying is not on your plate then anymore, right? Like we ship web like this, and like if people basically have a need for it, they can specify it later, and who doesn't want to support that basically will never support it.
yeah, I think that's fair. It's about leaving a path open that, and I think we need to make sure that it's clear that that's what our intent is. I don't like one of the things I said when we did the charter for this is I didn't want it to be too open-ended, and here I am kind of making an open-ended thing. But so I think it would be worth, whatever the wording is in the PR we end up putting in here, we want to be quite kind of circumspect about like how many doors we're opening. And I'm sympathetic to what Sergio said, but it does leave open possibilities for the kind of thing that that Julius wants to do, I think. So I think if we kind of get it right, we can like have both things.
So is that you, Tim? Is that you volunteering to do a PR to get that to happen?
I'm happy to write a PR, but I kind of want Sergio to be happy with it too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can do the PR for supporting the M line to with the data channel support to the spec and splitting the RFC in two. So I mean, I'm fine with that. Then we will have to check what's the best thing for supporting data channels or how to multiplex the events in the data channel. If it is in the same extension document that the server sent once, or if we want something different. So, but we can sort it out later. I mean, because I think that at least for me, the most important thing right now is to unblock the web SPEP so we can have an RFC as soon as possible, and then have more for more atomic RFCs that we can work in parallel and even have more people working on it.
All right. Well, in terms of a time check, we got about 10 more minutes. What do we think would be the most useful one to discuss next?
Before we go to the next, I know we have done a HTTP DIR early review. I would suggest we still do another one since that one was read, or we follow up with the reviewer when we think this is when the issues are closed, instead of getting surprised later.
We can do that.
Yeah. If we remove the events from the web RPC, it is going to be almost similar or identical to web. So I have already backported all the changes from the HTTP review. So I don't expect to have any surprise, and hopefully, because I mean, if we get any surprise here, I mean, we should have the same problem in WIP.
So I guess it's back to the question: which one of the remaining issues do you want to bring up?
I think that one minor one is the number 7. Yes, this one. I think that's what. No, I don't think that this was. I'm not sure if this is even relevant anymore. It was one also raised by Dan Jenkins. It was number.
Discoverability?
Yeah.
Is that one? Discoverability, all right.
This one is I mean, as we are probably, this is a question probably also to the HTTP group. I mean, as we are using HTTP for the URLs, it is not really possible to differentiate the protocol that we are going to use from the URL protocol because it is HTTP. So, for example, if you use RTMP, you know that you are using RTMP because the protocol of the URL is RTMP. But for web specifically, it is HTTP. So it could be in DAS, or it could be web. So how can we configure for example, an application that it is and that you configure the URL to know if it is an MTD or if it is a web. I'm not sure if the content type is the proper one because it is we don't have, the only one that we have is the application SDP, but we don't have an application SDP offer answer. That it is what I think that it would be feel more appropriate. So this is one open question that maybe is not is again, I don't think that it is, not sure if it is something that needs to go into the web RPC or not could be done, or even if we need to specify how to configure that URLs in players or things like that.
One maybe crazy idea would be to basically, based on what Dan said in the very first comment, that for the other things, the URL happens to end in dot, like a file extension. Could we do like dot web?
I would think that our colleagues from the HTTP group will kill us if we do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure we get lit up like a Christmas tree. You were correct. It was a crazy idea. Yeah, I mean, another URL scheme that's just never going to fly, right? That's
Yeah.
more pain than it's worth.
Yeah, and also I think that this kind of content type is more about what the response of the HTTP request is going to be, but I'm not sure if there is any kind of concept about what both the content type of the post request and the response needs to be. I'm not sure if it is even a thing in HTTP. But anyway, this is something that we can discuss offline, and I'm not sure even if it is a blocker for the web draft itself. And the one and in fact this was not the one that I was going to. It was the number 20, the issue number 20. This is more an editorial question. It's not more an editorial issue. So I think that what to do is clear, but the question is, do we need to specify what is the server behavior for misbehaving clients or not? I mean, because currently, for example, this is an issue with what happens if the client is requesting an event that it is not announced by the server. So currently we have, when we announce the server-side event URL, we also define the events that the server supports, and then the client has to send a subset of those events. So what happens if the client sends an event that it is not recognized and has not been announced by the server? Do we need to really specify how the server has to handle not compliant clients, or we just leave it unspecified and leave it open for implementation details? I mean, because there are two options. In this case, you can reject the whole offer, and you just can ignore the event. So
Maybe as a clarifying question, so the agreement before, when we talked about the event channel being over the data channel, I think from the chat I gathered that we should support both. I think if that's the case, if I understood that correct, then there should probably be either, I think Jonathan brought up that the server always must support both, or we need to put in the spec how, like, I think for the M application, like, it's clear to me that if the client sends M application and the server basically says, like, it doesn't respond with an M application in the SDP, it's clear that it doesn't support that way. But then we need to also clearly define, like, what the server would do if it doesn't support the HTTP way of doing it.
I mean, anyway, the events are optional because it is an extension, so all extensions are optional. So if, for example, if the client does, both the clients or the server may not support the events. So I think that that it would be perfectly fine for servers to support data channel and not support server-side events, or support server-side event and not data channel. So I think that it is something that it is both.
Yeah, but if it can be either or, I think then we should clearly define what the response looks like if the server doesn't support it.
But yeah, I mean, you are talking about the discussion that is going on in the chat, not the one that not the issue that we are talking in the screen share.
Oh, sorry, then I missed the point.
Yeah, I
Julius?
mean, that I think that the discussion that you were asking is what has been discussed in the chat that is not related to the issue that we are discussing from the GitHub in the screen share. So, but I'm fine.
Dan is
I am
basically
fine. I am
asking
fine
for
to discuss for both of them, but I just confused about which one.
Dan is asking for specific events, basically. If one event is not supported.
Yeah, I mean, Dan is asking what happened, for example, right now, imagine that we support server-side event in both the client and the server. So and what happens if the client asks for one specific event that the server has not announced in the S200 response? I mean, if the client sends us an event that it is not supported by the server, it is a non-compliant client because the client must send a subset of the events offered by the server. So do we need to release tell what is the server behavior in that case? I mean, do we need to specify what is the server behavior for not compliant clients, or we should only define what is the behavior for compliant clients and leave the one that are misbehaving as implementation defined? So it is more an editorial question that what is the actual server behavior.
Julius?
So that seems like a one-sentence issue. So there are two choices. Either the server ignores the event or the server closes the connection. Either is fine because the client is not compliant.
Yeah.
So it's a one-sentence fix, and I'm fine with either.
Yeah, but my question is, do we even need to put that the server is allowed to do whatever it wants? I mean,
We
when
don't
there is
need to, but it's one sentence. The cost is minimal. It would be quicker to write that sentence than to have the discussion now. So just write one sentence, whichever, and you're done with it.
fine with that, but also I would like to have what is the feeling of the chairs about what do we need to do if this happen and we get more issues like this in the future. I mean, it was I'm not sure it's just it's more not what to do with this specific issue that I'm perfectly fine with adding one sentence. The question is that we may have the review that later on, and when we get the ISG review out what we are putting this that does not add anything to the spec. So because I will have to probably get that when we get the reviews, probably I get this comment about why are we adding one sentence to the spec that does provide no value. So I need to know if what is should be our official position, if this really needs to be in the spec or not, or if we are just putting it to just close the issue, but it is not really needed or whatever.
Fair enough. We're going to let David have the last say here because we are over time.
Oh, great. David Skenazy, rat hole enthusiast. No, just very quickly, I don't know much about this specific one, but in general, it is very good practice to specify what an endpoint should do when the peer is misbehaving. We found that when you don't do that, you end up with weird things. You end up with cases where people don't check things they should. So like recently, we did this in particular with Quick, and with like the best practice is anytime you have something that couldn't be handled well, it's worth it to say how you should react to that. You can leave some clarity, for example, in HTTP, what we generally do and say like, consider the request wrong and abort, but you don't have to specify which error code, but at least specifying that you have to like error out is important.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that does sound reasonable. So, all right. Well, with that, we'll take it to the list, as they say. Again, thanks, Sergio, for continuing to carry this cross for us.
Let's hope that we are able to do it soon.
We'll see you all next time.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You're going to take care of throwing something up on the awesome. Thanks, man. I completely forgot. It's so funny. This is the one working group where I consistently forget to request for scribes.